Hi, everybody. It's Janae, aka the Mobile Monger again, and I am here with Sheila from Nettle Meadow. So, Sheila, if you could just kick this off with telling me a little bit about yourself and about Nettle Meadow.
Sure. Hi, folks. Yes, Sheila Flanagan from Nettle Meadow. For those of you who are not familiar with us, Nettle Meadow is a cheese company, sanctuary farm, retail shop, all around neat little place in the foothills in the southern Adirondacks. So we're in the Glens Falls region, and our dairy started back in the 1800s, but it's been functioning as a cheese company since 1990. And my partner Lorraine and I bought the company in 2005 and have really tried to move it to the next level, making our cheeses available nationally. Uh, we recently transitioned from being a farmstead cheese company to working with 11 other farm families so that we could grow our cheese and grow our business, although this might not have been the best time to pick to do that. Anyway, so that's a little bit about our farm and a little bit about me. I am not a fancy cheesemaker. I used to be a corporate lawyer back in my other life, and made cheese as a hobby. So I was once a hobbyist, though my bank account will tell you that I am no longer a hobbyist. But anyways, I was a hobbyist and I made cheese and it was lots of fun, and I didn't want to be a lawyer anymore. So Lorraine and I made the great jump in 2005 to buying this little broken down farm and cheese company up in Thurman, New York. And I think there were maybe 22 goats producing at that time. And we've since grown to about 350 goats producing at any given time, and a total of 700 goats, about 50 Jersey cows, and almost 200 East Friesians. So we've grown just a little bit in the last 16 years.
Yeah, I'd say. Can you
Yes.
tell me about what kind of cheeses you make?
Yes, so we're best known for our mixed milk bloomy rind cheeses. Kunik has been our most awarded cheese, which is the goat's milk with cow cream, triple creme, and it is a lovely cheese, and we make it in a bunch of different sizes for everybody's pocketbook. And then we've branched out from there to also make Briar Summit, which is a 3 milk cheese with some cow cream and some raspberry leaf tea. Three Sisters, which is a 3 milk cheese. Sappy U, which is cow and sheep. So you can see mixed milk, all bloomy rinds. We make a bunch of fresh cheeses. The honey lavender fromage blanc is probably our most popular. Apple cider fromage frais, apple cider syrup fromage frais is probably our most awarded of our fresh cheeses. And then we make it's really ridiculous. We're not that big of a company, and yet we make like 30 different flavors, and everyone hates me for that, but I just can't say no. And then lastly, we make some washed rind cheeses. We make the little size Amber Kunik and Partridge Mountain. The Amber Kunik is just the Kunik, and it's washed in Adirondack ale and Adirondack whiskey, and that's a very tasty option. And then we make washed rind tomes, 3 or 4 different varieties. So we really, I always explain to people, because it does seem like an overwhelming amount of cheese and a lot of variety. But if you've lived through the Adirondacks, December through March, there is nothing else to do but make cheese or ski. And I don't think that any of the people on our team ski, so we make a lot of cheese.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say that I did a little guest appearance cheesemongering at Antonelli's right before Christmas, and man, we sold a lot of Kunik down there.
Yeah.
The Texans love it. I mean, I love it, but it's an easy sell for sure.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They've been a huge supporter of ours over the years. And I believe they used to have a second home, or they had a family home. A relative had a home in North Creek, which is about 15 miles from us. So several members of the Antonelli family have come and visited the farm and whatnot. So
Oh,
they've
that's nice.
firsthand experience there. Yeah, yeah.
So can you tell me about what your business model looked like what your distribution looked like? Are you heavily distributed? Do you sell direct? What percentage do you do to restaurants?
Right. So pre-COVID, we were, I'd say at least 95% distributors, and we would send things out to distributors all over the country. So we have 5 or 6 distributors on the West Coast, 5 or 6 distributors in the Midwest, 5 or 6 distributors, probably more, probably 10 distributors on the East Coast. And we really didn't have a super good sense of how much of that was going to retail and how much was going to restaurants and large venues and schools. I mean, we knew places like Chef's Warehouse and Baldor bought our cheese. We knew that was primarily food service, but we really didn't have a good sense until COVID hit and our sales dropped by 70%. And then we realized, wow, that's a lot of restaurants, a lot of schools, and a lot of, large venues like, Madison Square Garden, or, places like that. So we, so yeah, so that's what we did. And, perhaps we should have been more knowledgeable, but really, your cheese is going to sell to the people that are going to it. And it's hard. It's hard to get a good sense of, it's hard to really steer cheese one way or the other. So it seems that we were on a lot of chefs' restaurant cheese plates, and now we're not. And so that's really the crux of the nightmare that we're living through right now.
Well, and especially since you make so many fresh cheeses too, that's in our industry, that's been the first thing hit, really.
Sure.
Because you don't have the ability to age that stuff out, and you can't sit in a cooler for a while. So
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so for us, the way that we've dealt with this issue, the immediate way that we've tried to deal with it is that a lot of this fresh bloomy rind cheese that was going to go bad, at the same time, so many people in our region have lost their jobs where we go to deliver our cheese, which is Long Island City, and then it goes out from there. So the New York City hub, so many people suffering, so many lost jobs. So we've donated tremendous amounts, thousands of pounds of cheese has been donated, especially of the bloomy rind version, because it can't be saved. It can't, we can't sell it in November or something. So and there's lots of people that appreciate, getting it in their kids', lunchbox because of the lunch programs that are going on. So as of yesterday, we had we had given away well over 5,000 pounds of bloomy rind cheese over 5 weeks.
Wow.
So last week I did a little bit of math on that and realized that it was well over $75,000 worth of cheese, and realized that I probably didn't want to do the math anymore because it's just a little bit painful from a business model.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit more than a little bit painful. That's a big
Yes.
chunk.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping it comes back in karma. And, once we started doing this, once we started giving cheese out, and, I spoke on one of the local Capital Region news programs and said, hey, we've got all this cheese. We don't want it to rot. We want to give it away. If you have a food bank, give us a call. And so many people called. And so we started giving away lots of cheese. And then so karmically, business did pick up as well. And we have gone from 70% drop in sales to, we've probably built up to almost 45-50% of where we were. So it's not manageable for a whole year, but with the summer coming on and farmers markets coming on, then it gives us some hope that maybe we could piece together a 60%, 65% of where we were. And then in addition, we talked before we went live here about how not techno savvy I am, but we have just started a website sales, a website store. So you can buy, more than 50% of the different types of cheeses that we have at that store. And I am adding a few cheeses a day. So if there's something you like that you don't see there, hopefully by next week or the week after, it'll be on there.
That was going to be my next question, if you were doing any sort of change in sales revenue at all in terms of like direct to consumer sales and whatnot. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, we are doing so many things. So we're doing that, which is painful because I'm very ignorant of internet-like things. But so we're doing that, and we're trying to partner with more people. So we've a couple of the CSAs in our area. We already participated in a couple of different CSAs, and a couple of other Adirondack-based CSAs have contacted us over the last month. And said, hey, don't give away your cheese, sell it with us. So we've started doing that. We've started working with a couple of other internet-based sites that we hadn't before. So I feel like, living in the Adirondacks, making cheese turns me into a hermit most of the year, except for when I'm at a fancy food show or at the ACS Meet the Cheesemaker event. And this has really brought me out of my shell a bit, because I find myself making so many more connections within the cheese community than I normally would on an everyday basis. And that's not a bad thing, because you get more feedback, you get better sense of community. This is a horrible thing that we're all going through, and our families are going through, and our friends are going through. And so, it's cathartic in some ways to be able to reach out and be able to experience that very unique cheese world community that we all have, that I only get to appreciate 3 or 4 times a year normally.
Yeah. I mean, I am 100% on board that cheese people are the best people. So yes. That's why I've been in this business for 18 years. So I totally feel that. And I also, I feel community is what is going to help us pull through this. And being able to connect with our community in solidarity, I think, is what I'm trying to do here, so people can tell their stories and make sure we all understand what the reality of the situation is.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a huge help. And just to stop on that whole sense of community for a second, and just, mention that it really through the people that help us to get our cheese to where it goes. Those people have been wonderful. And then the people that at the distributors that I usually work with, so many of them have been great, saying, here's an opportunity here, or have you tried this, or, and really putting themselves out there to offer our cheese maybe to some retailers that didn't buy our cheese before. So, we're all supposed to be sheltering in place, and I 100% agree with that. I'm sitting at the entrance to our new cheese plant that isn't open yet, but where we have some construction going on, with my little mask in case anyone from the public walks through. But my point being is that these distributors, putting themselves out there, talking to other retailers on our behalf in the midst of this, even though, we're all supposed to be keeping to ourselves, we really do appreciate everything that people in the cheese community are doing for us. And, even one small little cheese shop, like I can give a shout out to St. James in New Orleans, just bought a ridiculous amount of Kunik from us for I guess it's a virtual remote tasting that they're doing in a week or two. And that's huge. I mean, that pays somebody's salary for the next few weeks. It's great. feeds, all the goats for a week. It's just, those things are just so appreciated right now.
Yeah. So, let's talk about your farmers and your employees. Have you had to lay anybody off currently? Have you had to stop taking in milk, or like, how are your relationships with your employees and your farmers going right now?
Surprisingly well. We have 11 different farm families that we started leasing animals to. Like, we had them all at our farm, all of these animals, except for the cows, a couple of years ago. We started leasing to a group of families in our area. And then we went into a partnership on Jersey cows with a few others. So that whole group of farmers that take care of what we still think of as our extended family, the goats and sheep that came from our farm, and the cows in that community, we've continued to buy most of their milk. There was probably a 2-week period where we were panicking and buying 70% of their milk. There's a couple of other farmers that we buy from intermittently during the year, and we just can't buy from them right now. So we feel horrible about that. But if we were to buy from everyone, then there wouldn't be paychecks for anybody. And that's a very hard choice. But we've done well by most of our farmers. And then our employees, it's varied. Like, it's been tricky. But every time, there's been a couple of people that have gotten sick, and not with COVID, just with something else. And we send them home, we pay them, and wait for them to get, because, cheese making, there's a lot different between meat packing and cheese making. But when you think about it, the types of outbreaks that they've had in the meat packing industry, and there's maybe 15 of us that work in, a few thousand square feet, and we all work with masks on, and we're all social distancing. But, we have to be really careful. So we do send people home if they even have the sniffles or they're not having their best day. And we've been able to keep everyone employed that wants to be employed. There were a couple of people that one of our cheesemakers went back to the Midwest where her family is, and we hope she's coming back soon. We've invited her back because now that we're making lots of cheese for the food banks as well, and we're getting into that summer season, we're very busy. We have a couple people that have health issues, and they've just said, hey, I just would feel safer at home. And so they know the door is open. And if they want to come back in a week or 3 weeks, they can. So for the most part, to the best of my knowledge, that we have been able to keep everybody going so far. And we reached out to our farm bank, Farm Credit, and also to our local bank who helped us with some PPP funding. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do all of these things. So we know we've been extraordinarily lucky in that way, that both of our banks have helped us out a lot.
That's good to hear, because I know that was a really frustrating avenue to go for a lot of people. So
we know it's not true. I mean, not true for a lot of people. I saw a survey yesterday that in the Adirondacks, only 8% of the people who applied for funding have received funding of small companies like ours. So we realize that, we're extraordinarily lucky, and we are giving it all back to the animals, the farmers, and our employees at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know you do mostly soft cheeses, but you did mention that you do some tomes, so slightly aged out a little bit further. Has this affected your affinage practices at all and keeping those in, or?
It's affected them in the sense that we're doing more of it, because obviously that's something that we could sell at Christmas or next year if we needed to. And where I'm sitting now is our new facility, which we'd hope to have up and running in June, but we've slowed things way down. Even the two guys that work with us on construction, one's been working downstairs, one's been working upstairs very slowly, because we're trying to build out our washed rind cave so that we can keep more cheese down there. So that is something that we're working on right now. And they've also got the freezer going so that we can freeze some of the sheep milk, because there's no point in, we just have hundreds and hundreds of gallons of sheep milk, and we want to keep our sheep farmers going. So we're hoping the winter we'll be able to use half fresh, half frozen sheep milk from our own sheep, because no one's going to buy as much sheep cheese as we can produce right
Yeah. So can you tell me about that project that you're working on then? Because now obviously this is an odd time to be halfway through a big project like that. So
now. Yeah, it's good and bad. I mean, it's good in the sense that I'm able to spend some more time here and maybe plan things out a little bit better. It's bad in the sense that I really only want to keep one person on each floor and try to keep social distancing and keep the project safe. And we've really slowed down. Like it was our sense that we're going to come in here and have, a whole crew of people. We're going to build out a whole cheese plant where the big dining hall used to be. And we'd be, selling meals and cheese tastings and have a wine and beer set up in the bar, which is just next door. Have that all going by Memorial Day. So it's been going slower, but again, we feel incredibly lucky that we didn't just have to throw up our hands and give up. So that's the kind of the silver lining here. You have to keep remembering that there's a lot of people that are worse off, because we're pretty lucky as things go.
yeah. Has this situation changed your thoughts about what you want to make as a cheesemaker? Or do you think that you're gonna go into more harder cheeses instead of just focusing on softer cheeses? Or do you think that you just love what you do? So
I have to stay optimistic. We are, my staff knows that sometimes I grumble about hobbyism, and in a lot of ways I feel like as a washed rind cheesemaker I am still an infant, and in some ways, in my mind at least, still a hobbyist. And we make some really nice bloomy rind cheeses, and that's really where I think all of our hearts are that work on this team. And I think that you should do what you do the best, and you can dabble in other things. But so I have to stay optimistic that 8-10 months from now there's going to be a huge market again for bloomy rind cheeses, and people will be missing Kunik on their cheese plates. And in the meantime, we're making more, and I guess this is where the cheese making is changing, is we're making more and more of mini-sized things. So mini Kuniks and mini Simply Sheep and mini Amber Kuniks. I keep threatening to make mini Nettle Peaks, which my staff isn't happy about, but it just gives people a chance to go and buy a little piece of cheese, take it home, not have to worry about the health of the person that's cutting and wrapping it. They just get that sealed piece of cheese and take it home, and they're happy. So, and also because people's pocketbooks are not doing as well as they were. So it's easier to think about a mini piece of Kunik than a whole button.
Yeah. So you said you're doing a lot of, you've got your website up and running, and people can order directly off of the website.
Yes, we're selling, we're shipping Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Everything second day air, because that's the other thing that's so frustrating. I'm so jealous of hard cheesemakers, because they probably have a little bit more capacity to send cheese a little slower. And unfortunately, the shipping costs as much as the cheese is when you make a bloomy rind. But we're doing our best, and I'm doing more research into flat rate postal service and flat rate FedEx. So if people come to our website and say, my God, the cheese looks great, but the UPS is expensive, I'm still working on that piece, but
Yeah.
hopefully people
Well,
will
I
bear
think
with
that
us.
that's a valid thing to talk about, because a lot of people will say, like, can't you just sell off of your website? But do you have the space for shipping a cut and wrap to order sort of deal, or?
That's the other piece where we're grateful to have this giant 14,000 square foot facility that we can branch into if we need to.
Because I know that that's a difficult thing for a lot of makers, is that there just isn't the space to have an entire shipping department in their facility. So
It
that's good to
is.
hear. At least you can kind of at least fit it in there if you need to.
We have the space here. We just have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, understandable. I know we had talked about this before we went live, but the big question of if a cheese business is starting right now, what things would you say to them? And I agreed with you, your original statement before we went live. So feel free to say that too.
Which was run as fast as you can the other direction. It's so hard right now. A cheesemaker has a cheesemaker kind of in that medium size where we are right now has so many responsibilities. Lorraine and I feel such a heavy weight to keep all of the farmers going. And then some of the employees that we work with have been working with us for over 10 years, and we know their children, and some of their children work with us because we've known them since they were like this high. And it's just it's not just about yourself or where you're going to get food for dog kibble next week. It's this whole little universe that you have. And so it's a lot of responsibility. And I guess if I was going to start fresh and I really wanted to go into cheese making and I was a good 25, 30 years younger, I might start out a lot smaller and really create a model where you're just relying on yourself, your family, you're milking yourself, and you have maybe a few CSAs that you're working with. And when we started out, we were doing this. We were delivering to every retail location ourselves, every restaurant ourselves. As we got more popular, and my partner got into a bad accident by trying to distribute herself to too many locations, we said enough. We have to just go to distributors and concentrate on animals, concentrate on cheese. And I think, though, if I was starting right now, I'd start out really small, really hone in on 2 or 3 products that I felt super proud of, and then wait for this horrible COVID disaster to be over and maybe grow from there. Because, this could not have been foreseen. But if I'd already quit my job, or, this was my dream, I wanted to be a cheesemaker in 2020, I'd start really small and just hone my skills and make it super, super local. And just be really careful and wear my mask and my gloves and protect my family. Yes.
I think that's great advice. So I think one thing that a lot of people don't know about Nettle Meadow is the animal sanctuary. Can you talk about that for a second?
Oh, absolutely. We have always had this really difficult goal of maintaining all of the retired animals. So everyone, as they come out of production, or if they have a health issue, or they break a leg, or if they, we have one girl on the farm, her name is Rhonda Rousey. She was born with some of her intestines on the outside of her body. And usually animals that are, and I've had a few animals born this way. Mother Nature can be cruel. They usually last 5 or 10 minutes. And Rhonda lasted an hour. And I said, that's it. I've got to take her to the vet. And she had like this really serious surgery in her 3rd hour of life. And she survived, which, goats don't do anesthesia well, but she survived that at 3 hours of age. So she got her name. And so she is like an example of how incredibly nuts Lorraine and I am, because why you would spend that amount of money on a surgery when an animal is obviously never going to be a producer because they're starting out with some sort of, very significant illness or issue. There's not a lot of farmers in America that would take that on, but that's really our goal, When we were kidding and lambing at the farm, we made it our goal to find a non-meat home for every boy that was brought into the world on the farm. And we contracted with a couple of people who placed animals with zoos and 4-H and brush companies and that sort of thing, so that people could feel comfortable with where the animals go. And we still put a lot of pressure on the families that we work with to try to find all of those alternatives first, even for the boys. Just last weekend, I traveled down to Sprout Creek in New York, the Hudson Valley area, so it's a few hours south of us, and picked up all of their kids because they just had to close their doors last week. And we also picked up 30, I think their entire milking herd of 34 girls, and we've moved them throughout our 11 farm families. And my van mechanic is not very happy with me today because the amount of milk that we tried to bring back from their farms yesterday was extreme. So I'm going to have to retool a few things, but that's the sort of thing we try to do. If there's an animal in need, we've taken in old horses. We got a bunch of mini donkeys the other year because a gentleman lost his job and didn't have any way to feed them. We have, even our rams, when they retire, we have to build a new pasture and a new hut for them to live out their days in. So we try to make people feel good about the food they eat. And we like for there to be a great place for kids to come and visit and see where their food is coming from, which is why it's so frustrating, because we're afraid to even let people tour the farm right now because you hear about the tigers at the Bronx Zoo having caught COVID from their zookeepers, and we want to keep our staff safe too. And we don't know, where the illness gets transferred. So we're hoping maybe in June, when people come visit the farm, if they bring a face mask, we'll give them a free set of gloves and they can walk around and still visit the animals.
That's a very noble and difficult pursuit. So I applaud you in that.
Yes. We've never made $1 in 16 years, but that's because everything goes back to the animals. So we've also been able to stay in business, so we can't complain.
Yeah. So kind of one big last question. How can mongers, shop owners, distributors, how can they collaborate with you to get that cheese sold? What can we do to help you?
Anything that you can do to have our story told to people. Some people know about our sanctuary animals, some people don't. I think that is a compelling issue. Some people, some mongers get beaten up when people try to buy our cheese and they say, this price, this is a crime. And so I like as many people as possible to know kind of the story, and, that it costs money to keep retired girls. We've got like 3 different levels of retirement community. We've got like the regular retired girls, we've got a little bit worse off, and we've got the assisted living community, and it costs money to have good people help them. I know it's a humorous thing, but it's true. It's sadly true. So So, just want people to know that, maybe that extra quarter per piece of cheese is, going back to make sure that, Colleen or Stephanie or, Woody gets the hoof care that he needs, or, Colleen gets her antibiotics, or whatever it might be. So that's certainly helpful. And I'm certainly here. I'm willing, not that I'm very techno savvy, but I'm willing to do any sort of virtual tasting, anything that helps you guys to sell cheese too. Because I know you folks are doing your best to be as creative as possible, to keep your companies going and your employees staffed. I mean, shout outs to people like, Ann Saxelby, who's trying to do super creative things to keep her staff going and her bills paid. So, I think I've been hearing it too much on the television lately, but it's true. We're all in this together. We're all in not the happiest place right now. So I think by working collaboratively is the best way for us all to get through it with a warm feeling about the whole thing.
Absolutely. Well, is there any last thoughts that you feel like we didn't cover? You feel like we've got your story down and now we can share it?
I think we've covered most of it. I really appreciate you doing this for both myself and so many of our cheesemakers that, we all have a plight right now, which needs to be heard. And, we hope that people will come out and buy our cheese, real cheese, artisan cheese, and, something special at the dinner table on any given night, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay on the line. I'm going to say goodbye to our live friends and thank you all so much for watching.
Yes, thank you.